I will introduce myself just with some pictures. And well, I'm veterinarian. I study in the Faculty of Madrid in Spain. And after I finished, I work as practitioner for more than 10 years. And well, I did my PhD while I was practitioner working on the field. And later on, I joined the MSD team in Spain to work as the technical consultants for the internal team, also for the trials that we do at the local level, and so on. This is just a picture I sent to Leona, because she told me, have you ever been here in the Czech Republic? And this was before COVID, I think, that we have a meeting here in Prague. But it was the first time in Prague when I was studying veterinarian as a student, because in the third course, it was the travel that we always did. Every student in vet school in the third course, we used to come to Prague as tourists. So it was my first time here, and this was just 5 years ago. So, okay, if we come back, I started to work in the MSD as a consultant and as a manager for the technical team. And well, we are 6 people working in the technical team in Spain. This is my boss and the marketing people in the visit here to Prague. And what are we speaking today? We will be speaking in the morning. We will put the boots to go back to the farm. And we'll be speaking about the young stock and the health of the young stock. And for sure, one of the diseases that cause problems at farm level is the neonatal diarrhea, if we go to the first month of life. So we will speak about this disease and how to try to prevent it. We will speak about the causes, the cost, and how to work. And these are some pictures that I asked some of my colleagues last year, because we were preparing presentation in Spain also for a meeting. And I have a group of colleagues, we have a group, and I just sent a message, can you send me some pictures treating sick calves because of diarrhea? And I don't know, maybe in 5 minutes I have like hundreds of pictures from different vets, because really it's something that happens quite frequently on farms. So everybody have a picture from the farmers with the kids or working the vet on the field. And this is just to tell that really behind neonatal diarrhea, we will see later the cost. But one of the, I think the important things is a disease that causes a lot of headaches for the farmer, for the vets, and really maybe this is not so easy to put money to estimate the cost, but really it's a headache and a nightmare in many farms. And which is the frequency? Really, this is if we put data, this data are from the United States, but I think it's quite representative. In other countries, maybe in Spain we do not have exactly this data, but in the States they do a survey that they collect the data from many farms, and then they have more or less the morbidity, the mortality, the causes for the management practice. And these are the data for the morbidity and mortality in the young calves. And what we see here, that really related with the mortality, this is the blue is the digestive problems. And you can see around 30% of the mortality is due to neonatal diarrhea at dairy farm level. And which is the risk of getting sick for a calf. Here we have the data for morbidity, and in the gray we have the digestive. In the blue we have together digestive and also pneumonia in the calves. And you can see that also it's around 30% of the calves that get sick of diarrhea. This is our average. Some farms have much higher numbers, other farms are in lower levels. But if we go to them, there is an association for young stock in the States, and their goal is to be below 20% of neonatal diarrhea. So to be in 0 is almost impossible. You need to be in a low level. And what we have learned in this time about the disease. One is that the cost is really in different points. One group of the cost are related with direct cost that we can see on farm, really related with the sick calf. We have mortality, as we have seen. We have the treatments. We have the additional labor for the people on the farms that are giving those treatment or are taking more hours in these sick calves. Also, the visit of the vet, that sometimes you need more visit because there are sick calves. And for sure, if you think about this disease and score calves, you will think directly on this. That's why they are called the direct costs. But also, we have some indirect costs. The first of it, sometimes, usually in Spain, many farmers tell you, oh, always is affected and sick the best of my heifers or the best of my cows. And one problem is that sometimes the mortality affects those heifers that have the best genetic. So sometimes we are losing good genetics in these just born animals, which are the best genetic in your farm. But on the top of that, we have the long-term effect of the disease. And now we have with numbers that really those calves that get sick and do not dead, really they get cured, but through their life, they have an impact because they have been sick when they were very young. And this impact, what it do? Three points are the main ones. One, they grow slower because they have been affected of diarrhea, and we will see later it affects the absorption. This will cause also that the calves with diarrhea have more risk to have later on pneumonia. And if we think those calves with diarrhea, they are wet, usually they have dehydration, and that's why they have seen with numbers that up to 25% higher risk of pneumonia is present in those calves with diarrhea later on. And moreover, these calves with neonatal diarrhea, when they arrive to the lactation, they reduce the production of milk because of this, because this calf, we have seen in general, this calf sick, growth more delayed, and then the production is affected in the meanwhile. And then have seen that the first lactation, they produce on average 320 kilos less when they have been affected when they were very young. What else we have learned? That this disease do not have only one pathogen, which is the cause of the disease. In this disease, we have many players. And you can see that in red are the main players of the disease, and the most typical: E. coli, rotavirus, coronavirus, and also Kryptosporidium. But in other farms, we have other problems. Maybe in some of your farms, you have had an outbreak with Salmonella. And it's also a big problem. Or in older calves, after weaning, we can have problems with coccidia, for example. But in the first month of life, there are four main players. And it is a problem because the players, you can see there are different types. They join together sometimes, but we have bacteria because we have the E. coli, and we have virus, rota and coronavirus, and also we have a parasite, a Kryptosporidia. And this is a problem for the prevention and for the treatment because there are so different types of pathogens that requires different approaches to control them, okay? Usually, we split this like in two groups because in some farms, the problems are mainly focused on Rotacorona coli, so they are like included in a complex. Why? Because these three pathogens, we can more or less work in the same sense, through vaccination in the dams, through the system of prevention is more or less similar. And from a practical point of view, for the practitioner, the clinical picture is more or less the same. So you can send samples to diagnose, but they are more or less the same. And the difference is in the crypto, because when the crypto is also involved, you need to put some additional measures at the farm level. And that's why usually from a practical point of view, we differentiate if the crypto is or not involved in the case it is on the farm. And the third, we have been working a lot how to control this disease, to be in this good in the goal, in the small amount of neonatal diarrhea. We can work in two senses. One, we can work to reduce the infection pressure, Because if we work in hygienic measures, in vaccination, then you have less pathogens, and the animals have less risk to get infected and to get sick. So we work a lot in management. This is very important to work on farm level. And on the other side, we can work to increase the calf resistance, because at the end, the disease is the result of a disbalance between the pressure of pathogens and the immune system of the calf. So when one of them is weak, the animal gets to get sick, or the animal maintains healthy, because really the pathogens that are involved in this neonatal diarrhea are not pathogens that came from another farm because of the air or because of, I don't know, you buy some calves. Every farm have the different pathogen. So the difference between having sick calves or not is in the way you work in management and in prevention plans at farm level. And that means that the calves get sick or not, but the pathogens are there. And you cannot do nothing to avoid all of them. With Salmonella, for example, yes. You can have free farms or not free farms. But with Rota, Corona, E. coli, they are everywhere. And today we will speak specifically about the crypto, and which is the role that this Kryptosporidium plays in this game of the diarrhea. And first we will see about, we have seen the economic impact related with the neonatal diarrhea in general, but specifically we will see the data and the information about the crypto that we have now. And we know that from all these cases of neonatal diarrhea, really the crypto is responsible about 36% of the cases. This is on average. These are data from several studies, different countries, but we will see later that this is more the same or less the same in the different countries and the studies. And this is, you don't need to see the numbers, but these are the numbers of prevalence of this pathogen, this crypto, in different countries. In blue are the data for different countries in dairy farms, and in this orange are the data in the beef. And you can see that always is 40 to 90% when they sample calves in the farms. Sometimes are sick calves, sometimes they sample just a group of calves, but they are not sick. But when they sample a big percentage, they found this crypto in the different countries. And we will see that in different studies. This is in the UK. They have a good database, like in the States, and they have a lab that recover all the data of the diagnosis of the samples that the vet sent to the lab. And sometimes they publish the results. And here they show that the Kryptosporidium, you can see the causes when the vets send the samples to the lab, the different causes of neonatal diarrhea. And here you can see, let's see, this is the color. This is star, the blue one, is the percentage of samples, almost 37% of samples, that they only found the crypto in this sample, in the calf of diarrhea. And this star, the red one, is the 20% of cases they find the crypto, but together with another pathogen, maybe E. coli, maybe Rota, okay? Different mix, but crypto is involved. So you can see that in total, more than 50% of the cases, they find the crypto. But this happens all around the world, because you can see this is another study. This is in China, so we move through the world and we go to China, and we see that also in China, they have crypto as one of the main pathogens. And we can see, okay, but what happens here? And this is a study that they did also in the Czech Republic. And what they found, they sample animals, and this is different type of farms. The total gray are farms that keep the calves with the mother. And the other ones are the farms that split, and they put the calves individual housing in a box, okay? And you see that both of the cases, in the second and the third week of life, they have a very high percentage of calves with this Kryptosporidia. So really, the Kryptosporidia is all around, if in every country, and we have this problem at farm level. But as I told you at the beginning, okay, crypto is very frequent, it's very important, but it has a lot of friends. Sometimes it plays alone, 50% of the cases, but the other half of the cases, it plays with another pathogen. So in Spain, they did a study some years ago to see which are the frequency of the different co-infections. And you can see here that this is the alone, and at 25% the co-infection, the most frequent, was with rotavirus. And later on, in other studies in other countries, they found more or less the same. It is one of the most frequent associations is the crypto with the rota, but sometimes it's crypto with E. coli, crypto with, but they can be together. This is important, why? Because maybe you put the measures to control the crypto, but you still have diarrhea, because there are other players there. So you need to know which are the pathogens involved in your case, in your farm, or in the different farms, to check if the measures are working okay, if you are focused to control which pathogen, okay? Because for the crypto, you need additional measures. And maybe you think, okay, I don't know if I have this, do you have problems of crypto in your farms? What do you think? Yeah? Because in Spain, I think one of the main pathogens that people is worried related with neonatal diarrhea, for sure is crypto. Because the rotacorona coli, through vaccination, you can control. But with the crypto, okay, there are oral medication, but it's a lot of work. It works, but it's a lot of work for the people at farm level. And also it's a problem with the amount of antimicrobials that now we have a lot of pressure to reduce the amount of antimicrobials. So it's a problem for the farmer and also for the vets. And how can you have the doubt or the suspicious that you have crypto at farm level? It's true that in this group, this neonatal diarrhea, they call it the undifferentiated neonatal diarrhea, the complex, the whole, the rotacorona coli and crypto. Why they call like that? Because really, by the eye, it's not easy for the veterinarian to know that really the cause is crypto or the cause is rota, because it is quite similar, the type of diarrhea. Sometimes it's mixed infections, so really by the eye you can have the suspicious. And it's true that we know that the calves with Kryptosporidium problem, usually the diarrhea starts a little bit later. So usually the diarrhea at farm level starts when the calves are 5 to 7 days, so the first week. And with other causes, usually start before. And in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th day of life, you already have diarrhea. So when the diarrhea starts later, the vet usually thinks, okay, here maybe we have crypto involved. Also, we know that, okay, I told you the causes are bacteria, virus, and this is a parasite. So usually, when the bacteria is involved, Salmonella, for example, usually the rectal temperature is very high. But in the case of crypto, it's mild temperature. It can increase a little bit, but not very high. But this is just a clue, because when they are very sick, because of the hydration, the temperature goes down. So this is just a clue for us. And later, one of the typical things is the type of diarrhea, because usually the diarrhea, when crypto is involved, is yellowish, it's like pasty, and it's a diarrhea that takes time to recover, and we will see later why. It's a diarrhea that although you implement a good treatment, it takes time. So the calves are 1 week sick and still with diarrhea, and this is because when you do a treatment and the day after the calf is very happy, you are very happy. But in this case, it requires time. We will see why later. So one of the clues to suspect is the age of the calves. And here you can see in different studies they have seen or checked the setting of this, the oocyst. The oocyst is the way that the pathogen, when it's inside the calf, it reproduces, and later it set an oocyst, which is like the resistant form in the environment. And they check how the animals and how this pathogen, this parasite, is set in the calves. And you can see that usually the setting starts around 3 or 4 days, not in the first day. Why? Because the parasite needs a time. The infection is through the fecal oral, so it gets through the mouth because of fecal contamination somewhere. And then this parasite goes to the intestine and it needs to replicate. It has a cycle of time. And that's the reason. It needs 3 to 5 days to fill these cycles. And that's why usually the disease starts about 5 days, 7 days, because although they can get infected from the first day of life, but you will see the setting around 1 week later. Okay? But this is important because we need to know which is the initial source for infection to put the measures to avoid this infection, okay? And later on, they get infected and they start seeding. And in general, the first, second weeks of life and part of the third week of life are the weeks that usually produces the highest seeding and also the peak of the disease, because we see the disease here. And you see that later on, we do not have this here, the seeding, because this parasite is very efficient in the first weeks of life, but later on, the animal develops like an immunity to control the parasite. And then after 3 weeks or 4 weeks, if there is co-infection, maybe they can be a little bit longer, but usually after 3 weeks of life, the animal is able to control the parasite and do not allow it to reproduce, okay? And it controls the parasite. So the focus is in the first month of life. However, these clues are just clues, so many times we need some lab analysis to confirm the diagnosis, and that's why maybe you have seen at farm level we can use this type of test that we do the diagnosis and we can check the different neonatal pathogens just on farm, or we send some samples to the lab to do different techniques. Here, this is how they see in the lab. These are the oocysts that I told you. These white, well, the white circles are the parasite. They are very small. But when the animal is very infected, you can see all full of these white oocysts. And now we will see, we have seen, okay, this parasite is quite frequently present. How can we suspect that we have the parasite in our farms? And we will see which are the key points that makes that this parasite is successful and the calf gets sick. So we will try to find the keys of the parasite to try to fight effectively against this parasite and have not sick but healthy calves at farm level. And we will see 3 aspects, because really there are different aspects involved in the parasite. One is the parasite itself. How is this parasite to be so efficient? Another aspect is the host. We have seen that after 1 month, there is no problem. How the host can do or can affect this parasite to control it. And third is the environment, the management, how we can work to reduce the pressure. And first, if we speak about the parasite, one important thing is that this parasite is so successful. It's an old one, it's a protozoa. And there are more than 170 species different that are affected by this protozoa. And some of those species are the ruminants. So we have the cows, but also the sheep and the goats can be affected by this Kryptosporidium. And you can see that also in the picture that we have the ruminants, but we have other species and also the human side. And indeed, in some countries, they have a big control about this parasite presence in the human side, because it can be a problem mainly in the young kids and also in the people with diseases like affect the immune system. Okay, and in England they have a big lab and a team of research focus a lot on this parasite and on the crypto, and they have found that it is quite frequently present in, and there are 2 types of infections. You can see here in this cheese that we have a big brown and a big blue. The brown are the percentage of infection that are related with Kryptosporidium parvum. And if you remember, this is the parasite which is associated to the animals, because this cryptoparbum came from the ruminants. It's the specific crypto that affected ruminants. And why? They think that this is by contact with the animals. Maybe a visit to a farm, maybe the people working in the farm, the farmer, the vets. It's the first case, but later on, from that case, goes to other human. Okay? And the other half of the cases are related with the crypto hominis, which really is the crypto that is specific for the human. And one, for me, interesting when they present this data is that this specific case, the most frequent cause of this contagious is related with the swimming pools. Why? Because we will see later that the pathogen, these zookeys, are very resistant. And the product that they use in the swimming pool to control the different pathogens, I don't know, chlorine is in English, I don't know, the chlorine, the amount is not enough to control the parasite. And at farm levels, this also happens. This parasite is very resistant if there is humidity. So with the water, although with the chlorine and in the swimming pools is higher, the chlorine, than in the drinking water, they are able to infect other animals and to disseminate through different persons. And this is one of the questions. And we have seen that also the parasite affect the ruminants, and today the topic is because of the ruminants. And the cryptoparbon, as I told you, is the main crypto that affect with clinical signs. Is the one mainly that we mainly found in these young calves, when they are younger than 1 month. So this is the pathogen that is related, this crypto is the one associated with the disease. But later in the life, as there is research for so many things, and they have also studied what happens after, why do not have the disease? And what they found that this crypto is also present, and you can see, okay, about 1 month and a half you can see it, but in a smaller amount. And later, other crypto bovis, crypto ryanae, andersoni appears. So they take maybe the room for the cryptoparbon, which is the cause of disease, and the other crypto are not so a problem. But you can see here that later on in the cows, again, the cryptoparbon appears. So, and they have seen that after calving, with the stress, the shedding of this parasite increase. So this is important because maybe this can be one of the sources of infection for the calves in the calving areas, because the cow can shed these zookeys. The cow do not have disease. It looks sick, healthy, everything is perfect, but they are shedding the zookeys, and they can infect the calves. And what's the second, or the secret of the parasite to be so successful? Because we have seen really the prevalence is high, we have problems on farms. The secret, one of parasitologists, a professor, he told me, the secret is in the cycle. I don't know if you have this ad in the TV. This is from a pizza brand in Spain. And they have this ad in the TV. Oh, the secret is in the mass. In this case, the secret is in the cycle of the parasite. And we will see now why it is so successful. We can see that this is the cycle of the parasite, but very simplified. And one of the keys is this number, the 17. And this parasite is able to induce infection and disease in the calves only with 17 oocysts. It's very small amount, because we have seen how small they are, so very few amount of pathogen you need to develop the disease in the calves. And later on, the parasite reproduce inside the intestine of the calf. I told you it requires 3 to 5 days because it needs to replicate, and it has different phases. The parasite change its aspect, modify, and later on we have new oocysts. And this needs 3 to 5 days. But what happened? Through this replication, this is so effective that we start only with 17 oocysts. But after 1 day, when they get sick, well, not 1 day, 3 or 5 days, when they get sick, what we find? 10 billions of oocysts can be there in the feces. So it's a huge amount of oocysts every gram of feces. It's a lot of oocysts in these sick calves that are contaminating the environment and are the risk for other new infections in other calves. So really, it is quite difficult to evade this invasion for the calves which are healthy and have a sick calf near to them, or in the beef when they are together in a pen. It's quite difficult if you have a sick calf to evade. And you will see here, this is a picture with an electronic microscope. They put like a super glasses, and then you can see this is the intestinal wall inside, and this is the villus of the intestinal wall, and this villus should be flat. This intestine, the enterocyte should be like a wall, completely flat, and this villus here are the cells that absorb all the nutrients from the feeding that we give to the calves. Okay? But what happens when the crypto goes to the intestine, those 17 oocysts go there, and what they do? They enter inside these enterocytes to replicate. They enter, they get outside, they enter again, until they have these 10 billion oocysts. And this is a picture of this parasite inside the cells. You can see they look like bubbles, but as we will have billions of oocysts, we have billions of these bubbles of oocysts affecting the wall of the intestine. They are replicating and they destroy the cell. And they push the enterocytes that are in the sites because they are very big. And we will see later the position in the cell. So here is one of the problems. For the parasite, it's very successful because they reproduce very happily. But for the intestinal wall, it's really a damage, a big damage. And this professor did the estimation, not only of the setting by day, but the whole setting. So you can imagine this number. It's very difficult to imagine how much is that, but he put the reference that once he was looking in the TV, the amount of bricks of the Chinese wall, and it was almost the same number. So really, the amount of oocysts through these 7 days that the calf is setting in the feces, the oocyst, is huge. So that's why it's very difficult if we do not work in protection and also in the hygienic measures and so on, that the other calves do not get sick also, because of one sick calf can infect several calves. And this is because we are doing now some studies, not just to have the positive or the negative, but also to quantify the amount of oocysts. And you can see this is the amount of oocysts in real farms. This is the average and the variation by calf. But in the second and third week, as we saw in the other slide, is the peak of, wow, huge setting of a parasite through the feces. And then we will see the second player, because we have the parasite, but also we have the host, we have the calf, which is the affected one. And here you have the picture, what happened in the calf that is affected. In the other picture, we saw the whole intestinal, the villus and the parasite, the bubbles of parasite, and here we approach more, and we see what happens inside the cell. And this is the intestinal, the enterocyte, the intestinal cell, the ones which are responsible for this absorption of nutrients and so on. And this is the parasite. And you can see why these bubbles, because the parasite is very smart. And where is it when it invades the cell? It gets located just on the top of the cell. And what it will do also, you can see here, this is the nutritional barrier for the parasite. So he established like a bridge to get the nutrients from the enterocyte that they need to replicate and so on. And this bridge is good for him because he can get what they need to replicate, but it's a problem for us when we want to treat it or to control it, because this is like a wall. So it's very difficult, and that's why with the treatments to control the crypto, we need to give the treatment several days, because we need to wait that the parasite gets outside to get in control with the different products that we use for treatment, because here inside it's very difficult to approach it. Because, for example, the coccidia is also a protozoa, but it is in the cell, and it's easier, a little bit easier, not so, but a little bit easier. But in this case, really, it is very well protected from for the immune system and for the treatments. And here we can see that's a picture, real picture, and that's a drawing. So here we have the cell, and here is the localization. They say it's intracellular, but it's out of the cell. It's like in the limit, okay? Here is the sporocyte. It gets in contact with some receptors, and then it gets inside, and quickly it goes here to replicate. So here is hidden for the immune system. And what's the problem? That's for the host, that when the crypto replicates in this enterocyte, it destroys a lot of these cells. And you saw before this picture with the bubbles of the intestine. You can see it like this image. This is a drawing of how a villus works how is the villus really, but in a picture for this absorption. And here in the villus, when we studied at vet school, they explain us, okay, here are the young ones, enterocytes. They are learning how to be a good enterocyte. And while the top ones, the ones in the top of this villi, in the enterocyte, are the ones that are really working. And they are the ones responsible for the absorption, okay? And these ones are the replacement ones, are like the replacement in a farm. So what's the problem? When the crypto replicates here, we lose the generals of the enterocytes, the one that knows how to work, how to absorb. And later they are substituted, but these younger ones, which are and they need time to be able to be also very good at absorption. And that's the reason why we have this type, what we see on the calf is this diarrhea that takes a lot of time to recover, because we need these young cells to get here and to be trained and work properly. And for this reason, this type of diarrhea is also a headache, because the calf takes time to recover. And also, we have an additional problem. That in the meanwhile, the absorption, it doesn't work so good. And for this reason, we know that the growth of these calves affected is slower than the regular calves. And in the 2020, some researchers from the UK, they have this doubt, because we have the idea that this affects, and for sure, I told you at the beginning, with neonatal diarrhea, we know that the diarrhea affects the growth of the calves. But they have the doubt, which was really the impact of this Kryptosporidia in the growth of the calf, because it's the main reason of this long-term recovery of the cells. And they follow up calves in different pens, healthy ones with mild diarrhea due to Kryptosporidium and with severe diarrhea. And they follow them, there was beef farms for 6 months. And what they found? That the calves affected with Kryptosporidium, the same for severe than for mild Kryptosporidium diarrhea. They reduced the body weight 34 kilograms. So it's a big amount, really, because of this, because the intestinal damage affects the absorption of these nutrients. So they are eating, but they are not really taking these nutrients into the body. And indeed, there is a European project. It is called Health for Dairy Cows. These are researchers. We have a great impact and interest in this Kryptosporidia, and they have done different studies and meetings and so on from whole Europe. And they did a project to estimate which is the cost of this Kryptosporidium problem at the farm level, to have data. Because it's true that many times we have feelings, but not data. So they selected some farms in different countries to follow up and really to take data from those farms to establish which is really the cost of the disease. And they take into account the prevention, the cost because of the diagnosis, the treatments, and also these type of long-term effects, like I told you, the growth, for example. And what they found, they participate in this sampling and follow-up different farms from Belgium, France, and also from the Netherlands. And they found that the cost, okay, mortality was one of the problems, but it was not so big. The main cost was associated with the health and with the additional labor cost in the short term, I mean in the direct cost. And indeed, they estimate the cost of these treatments, and it was quite high, just the treatment. And you must just think about those farms that you have problems with crypto, for sure. Most of them, they do prophylactic treatment to avoid the crypto. So if you estimate the amount of money that you invest to treat, or metaphylaxia, to treat and prevent the disease, really is a huge amount. But on the top really are the long-term effects, because this is maybe the part of the iceberg that you can see, the direct cost, but really there is under the water, there is a big effect, and the big impact is related with this delays in the growth, that really we have now the data for the beef, but affects also the dairy, and this reduction of the growth, really we see later with the reduction of the production of milk in these calves that are affected. So really the disease is quite important. And now we will see the last point, but also important, which is the management, because how can we work to control the parasite? And as I told you, this is the picture for neonatal diarrhea, and for crypto is the same. Really, we can focus in two steps. One, reduction of the pressure of the pathogen, and the second is to increase the immunity in the calf. And in the first point, the reduction of the pressure, we need to know what is the pressure. And then where these oocysts come from. And I told you that you have seen the big or the huge amount of oocysts that we have in those sick calves. So really, for sure, the main source of infection are the feces of those sick calves already with diarrhea, because those sick calves, they have, wow, huge amount of oocysts. But also, we have other sources. And maybe they are not so big, but initially when we do not have cases, these are the main causes. And we have the asymptomatic carriers, and one of them are the dams. Because we have seen that after calving, because of the stress, the dams also the mothers can also shed this parasite. And then they can contaminate the environment of the calving area, and this is one of the points of first infection for the calves. Later on, we move the calf to the box or to the pen in the dairies or in the beef. They are all together many times, and then they can get in contact with older calves that they are able to control the parasite, but they can shed the parasite and infect the younger ones. And this is one of the main problems also in the beef, because if they get in contact different age calf, and we have ones that can contaminate and infect these newborn calves. And what else? You have seen that in the human side, one of the problems was these swimming pools and the water. And also in the farms, in the water, you can find, and they have done also different studies, and in the water of many farms you have the pathogen. The amount is small, so if you work to control the immune system of the calf, maybe you can, to work to reduce the amount of oocysts in the water is difficult. But indeed, in the human side, in these places that they have all the control of the water for the human drinking, they control the presence of the oocysts, because it's one of the problems that there is also. So if it is in the sources of water for human, imagine when it's sources of water that do not came from the human at farm level, because you need products to control the parasite. Okay? As I told you, it can affect other species, and that's why also the wildlife, you can have also other sources of infection. But the main focus are the sick calves and maybe the dams. For me, the calving area is the main area to control. And related to the sick calves, one of the options to control is to work, is the time that when you work at farm level. And one of the biocontention measures is to work first with the healthy ones. And at the end of the morning or when you finish, then you pay attention to those sick calves, because otherwise you spread the diseases, not only for this. So maybe the order at working can be one of the steps that can help. And for sure, all the disinfection systems and so on are important. And I told, these are the sources, which animals can be the sources, but later on, what can we do to reduce and to take all the orchids out of there? And well, here we have like disinfection, cleaning, and which are the main areas affected? Mainly the housing, and also the bottles, the teats. And I told you that the parasite, it needs humidity. Okay, so it's very important. We will see later which are the type of system to try to sterilize or eliminate this parasite. But we need to work in hygiene and in the different areas. Housing, this is a place to clean the boxes of the calves. And now in several places they are taking they have the calves in housing in an area, and then they take away a line, and they cover with this type of, it's like spray. Well, first you need to clean, but later this disinfectant in spray is more effective than the regular use. So they use it to clean not only the box, but also the floor of where the calves are. And for sure, changing calf to calf and so on, everything, this is very important. This is very difficult to do in the beef. We have to manage with other strategies, but in the dairy we have this strategy. Also the cleaning of the bottles, the buckets, whatever you use, because there can be also the parasite. And it's when it arrives to a healthy calf, it's very close to the mouth, so it's easy to contaminate. If it's contaminated, it goes directly to the infection. And this is the calving area, which is also important. And what's the problem, and why so emphasis in cleaning and cleaning? Because the pathogen is very resistant. And it's very resistant with humidity and with low temperature, but it doesn't like to be dry. The high temperatures are quite a help to control the parasite, and also the disinfection with different systems. We have physical methods, because the parasite, I don't know exactly how do you manage when they are in houses. They are outside or inside? The calves. You have the calves outside, mostly outside. If you have the calves outside, in Spain we have a lot of sun, so one of the general practice from the past was that after it's used, they take the box and they put it on the back to be with the solar radiation. And in the past they didn't know why it works, but it works because the parasite, the solar radiation and the hot to be dry is very effective as disinfectant for the crypto. Okay? But in other areas you cannot do that because you do not have sun or the calves are inside, so you need to work with other type of products or systems. And when they are inside, but they are with concrete, sometimes they use the fire, they say, what's the name in English, the flame, do you use here? Because the dehydration, the physical method, it works. We have physical methods, but we also have chemicals, and there are some products that, and hydrogen peroxide is one of the products that really in different studies they have proved to be very effective to control this parasite. So these type of products are like these foams that I show you in the pictures. They are growing, they use because they are also helpers in some farms. Because if we have a very, very, very high pressure of the parasite, although the immune system of the calf is very good, the amount of parasite is bigger than the immune system. So we need to work in both sides. And then we have seen, one, to reduce the infection pressure, and second, we can work to increase the resistance in the calf itself. And for sure, you have seen or you have learned about the 4 Qs of colostrum and the importance of colostrum, and the quantity of colostrum you have to give, the time, the quantity, the quality, okay? The Qs are very, and we have focused maybe for a long time on the first day of life of the calf. I don't remember, an American girl, she presented it as, I don't know this word in English. The one that you use in the car, a belt, that is colostrum management was like the belt for the calf. And it's true that it's very important. But in the last years, there are a lot of studies also thinking, okay, this is important, but maybe we are missing one aspect, not only the 24 hours, but what happens later on. And indeed, we wonder who is right, and we will see the nature or us. And we think if in nature, the cow, when calves, she has the colostrum, and the first day, the calf shackles this colostrum. But later on, we have some days of transition, that the milk is not really the same milk that a week after. There is a transition through this colostrum until it is just milk. So in the meanwhile, in this period, still we have a lot of antibodies and other substances, and later on you will see with a colleague how this transition milk has a 50% of this gold. We used to say that the colostrum is like golden. So, and this transition milk is not the colostrum, but it's in between the colostrum and the milk later on. And what we do in many farms, we focus on these 4 Qs, and we give colostrum the first day, but after, we just move to the milk powder or to the milk from the bulk dam, but not transition milk. And we have done this because maybe we have been focused, these 4 Qs are so important, and we forget that in many farms in the past, the usual was you milk the dam for the calf, and for at least 3-5 days, they continue to give this milk from the dam. So we were doing like this. But in some farms, they continue to do this, but many farms move to this because it's more easy for the parlor, but we are missing protection here. And later you will see some data of the amount of protection that we lose. And during these days, this transition milk is not the antibodies and so on. It's true that the 24 hours is the time that the antibodies from the colostrum goes to the immune system in the body. It goes through the blood to the blood. Later on, the wall in the intestine is closed, and then the antibodies cannot flow to the blood. But the antibodies and the different substances are in the lumen of the intestine, and they are working there. So through this time, it's also important to continue. We call it lactogenic immunity, because it's immunity at local level. Like when you use the intranasal vaccines, for example, you are controlling, it's like an immunity in the door open for the pathogens at the beginning of the infection. So they work like that. So when we continue to give this colostrum, these antibodies are working here. The antibodies are not in the blood, but they are at local level working, another substance also. But you will see in the next presentation. And you will see this data about the amount of antibodies. Really, we are focused, the antibodies in the first 24 hours, but later in this transition, we have still a huge amount of antibodies. And really, the nature still have antibodies here. Why? Maybe we are more smart than the nature, but maybe not. I think usually the science, we try to copy and to improve the natural system, but many times the nature is more smart than us. So we need to learn from taking a look at what happens and what's the natural many times. Another option is to vaccinate the dam to improve this specific immunity. And for sure, in many of your farms, vaccinate for rota corona to have specific antibodies in the dam. And we have seen in different studies that when we vaccinate the dam at the end of pregnancy, the cow do the job. She produces the antibodies, and the antibodies that she produces when she's vaccinated goes to the colostrum and also to the transition milk. And then this colostrum we can give to feed these calves, and then we have the vaccine into the calf. But for sure, we need to give good the colostrum and the transition milk to be sure that the vaccines arrive really to the host of the owner, or the focus of this vaccination, which is really the calf, not the mother. So just to finish on these systems to control this disease, we should focus in two types of activities. The orange ones are the ones related with reduction of the pathogen pressure. Those measures, we need to reduce the sick calves through management, through hygienic measures, okay, through a good feeding, because we need if we have a good feeding, the immune system also works better. And specifically in the crypto, they have seen that if we have higher amount of milk or milk replacer, the calves respond better because the immune system at local level responds better. So a high plane of nutrition is also a help for this pathogen. And on the other side, we have how to improve the immunity of the calf to have a good response and the calf to be able to control the pathogen, this parasite. And then we can work in the colostrum, a good colostrum intake, but not only this. It's also very important, the transition milk. Why? Because I told you, when the pathogen causes the disease, the calf is which age on average? Around 1 week old. So really this local immunity is also helpful because we need to control the reproduction of the parasite. Not only it's true that when the parasite gets inside the intestine, the enterocyte and so on, the antibodies from the blood and the immune system also go to the intestine. But if we have also protection in the lumen, it's also interesting. And we can also help this calf through vaccination. And now there are vaccines for not only for Rota corona, but also for crypto to control specifically this parasite. And we have also strategies about treatment. Some of them are metaphylaxis, so it's a mixture between treatment and prevention. And I don't know here exactly, I think you have two types of products because we have the allofuginan, which is an antimicrobial, and it really helps to control a parasite. It's specifically for the protozoa. But we have also some which are antibiotics. The paramomycin is an antibiotic also used in some farms. But really, it's an antibiotic we need to give several days. And I don't know for you, for our farmers, they are very worried because it's a big amount of antibiotic when they estimate or calculate, because they have the real data. The consumption of antibiotic is a problem. So many farms, they are worried because of a good use and because it's a problem with authorities. So maybe these two topics are the main that we can focus to prevent, to increase the immune system. Is more colostrum intake, transition milk, and vaccination. And with that, I finish. I don't know if we have questions here later on. Now? Okay. So if you have whatever question, more than happy to answer you.
Hello. Já se možná zeptám, jak dlouho musí být, když dezinfikujete boudičky, tak jak dlouho musí být to místo prázdné, aby ta dezinfekce působila?
So it depends on the system that you use for disinfection, physical or chemical products, but the rule of the thumb is the 1 week. Because this period, mainly with the physical system, is the period for the hydration and to be sure that it is getting like sterilized. And it's true that some farms, they are reluctant because in the meanwhile, they have come in calves from the calving area. And I think the point is that you need to estimate, when you estimate the number of boxes that you need and so on, you need to include this period to know really how many boxes you need. Because in many farms, the problem is they do not do it because in the real world, the new calves are coming to the farm, and then what we do? We need a huge, we need a box for the calves. So at the end, we established, okay, in theory, we have 1 week, but in the practice. So the idea is when we design this boxes system, we have to calculate. We will have 1 week empty, and then we need additional boxes. But this really works very good. And we reduce not only the crypto, all the neonatal diarrhea, if we have this week empty boxes. It's a good help that, yeah. Thank you so much for the question.
Dobrý den, já bych se rád zeptal, jestli je možný se kryptosporidií vlastně vůbec zbavit. Jelikož máme tady přesuny veterinářů, plemenářů, výživářů, jsou tam sice vakcíny, ale tam by to asi muselo být trvalé řešení, ne pouze dočasné, ale jestli znáte nějakou farmu, které jsou opravdu prostý, drží si ten status.
I think no. Kryptosporidium-free or mastitis-free farms do not exist. But if we have a low level of pressure, we do not have sick calves. Because we can have the Kryptosporidia in a very low amount, and then we have the crypto, but we do not see the disease. So I think the goal is to go there. Okay, we do not sterilize the crypto, but the crypto is under control. It cannot reproduce so much, it's in a small level. Okay? Indeed, this type of diseases, the neonatal diarrhea, the mastitis, they call it mucosal diseases. And the problem is that pathogens are pathogens, but are also present in the healthy calves in smaller amounts. So we cannot be free so easily. Yeah, it's a problem. But with good management, with prevention, we can have it really under control in a low level.
Pokud tedy není další dotaz, tak já poděkuji paní doktorce za velmi detailní vstup do problematiky s kryptosporidózou. A nyní bych chtěla, aby jsme se podívali na krátké video. Děkuji. Thank you.